screen. And it is an honor to be speaking with you today. So just a little bit about why I decided to run. So when you guys ended up going back on Zoom, there was a lot of disparities that were happening in our education system. And so kids that are low income students, they weren't able to participate in online learning the same way people with access were able to. And I personally thought that was a massive injustice. And we already knew in education that there were great disparities. But what ended up happening was we ended up taking a dynamite and throwing it in there, and it completely widened the achievement gap. And so I decided that I want to file and for Congress. And so I filed, and then I built a platform with another teacher. His name is Kevin. And we have been going at this for almost a year now. And within the first 72 hours of our candidacy, our campaign, we raised $25,000. And then by August, we had $50,000. And now we're sitting with 6 figures cash on hand. And I just want to set the tone of well, why is she telling me this? Why is this important? Because it really underscores that you can do hard things, that you can be an ordinary person, that you believe deeply in something, and you can actually do it. And I think that that's what this campaign represents, is hope for the future and to show that the impossible is in fact possible. So with that said, I want to quickly just introduce Kiki. She is one of the directors of our Kids Have a Voice Too. Nicole, she's one of my 2 campaign managers. And then we have Kate. I don't know if you can see her, but she's a former student of mine. She's super, super involved. And then I have Krista Michelli, who has volunteers and is a very, very important part of our campaign with communications and getting people involved. So with that said, ask us anything, and we're excited to be here. And Jacob, you'll have to tell me the questions, as I can't hear what kids are saying.
Yes. Does anyone have any first questions?
Was government and politics before this election as a teenager?
Our question is, were you always interested in government and politics throughout your life?
No. So I was always a voter. My mom always stressed that just make sure that you vote, stay in the loop, and just be quite frank, my family is unique because half of my family is Republican and the other half is Democrats. And so we always had live political discussions. I personally am not a divisive figure. I don't run my campaign in that regard. I think that that's not a positive approach to get things done, but it was not something that I've always wanted to do. But when the last election cycle happened, I said, you know what, I'm going to make it my business to be active and involved. And so the candidate that I had selected to support was Andrew Yang. And the reason why I chose him is because he was the only candidate talking about poverty. He was the only candidate talking about financial literacy in schools, automation and technology. And I felt that he was a unifying figure, and he tried to reach people from across the political spectrum, which I think is really important. And then that catapulted my candidacy.
Thank you. Does anyone have...
Oh, Jacob, can I just say one more thing? But I was political in the sense of anytime I just as a person saw injustices, I always spoke up.
Thank you. All right. Do you have a question? Okay. This question is, how has being a teacher, what was it? How has it made you become an advocate for putting kids in your campaign?
Say the question one more time.
How is your role as being a teacher, how did that lead you to decide to include kids so much in your campaign?
So when I was building my platform, so when you're running for office, you think about what do I want to be for? What kind of policies do I want to champion? And I said, I think the next generation is incredibly important. I feel that the young people are not listened to by adults. And I been a teacher for 10 years, and some of the most brilliant people I had met in my life are students. And so I said, I'm going to have the kids have a voice too. I'm going to make that like my signature policy. And I put that on my whole platform. It's 3 different parts. And I said that I wanted to run and be operated by young people. And so from the onset of our campaign, the Kids Have a Voice Too has been about kids ideas, and me basically doing the things that they've asked me to do. And I think I can throw it to Kiki, who runs it, on why she wanted to get active and participate.
Thank you. And can you also explain, you were talking about financial literacy classes in school and why you want, how you want to change the education system?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go after Kiki.
Okay. Hi. Just to piggyback off of that question. So yes, being involved in politics is something that has always been really important to me. I've always been really interested in it. I've always looked at it as a career source, but it is a really hard market to break into, especially as a young person, a teenager. I was kind of where you guys are. I was like 16, 17 when Aarika first filed and told me that she was going to run and that she wanted to highlight kids' voices. I feel like as children, it is so hard to be taken seriously in the political sphere because people think that you're too young or you don't know anything or you don't notice the things that are going on. But with Kids Have a Voice Too, it's not like that. Aarika has allowed us to talk about, well, one of our things that a former person who worked on our campaign, Ari, talked about was lowering the voting age, which became a very serious conversation with us. It's 18-year-olds, 17, 8-year-olds, basically the same thing. I'm sure you guys know that. So it shouldn't just be stuck at that. It should be that these policies, these presidents, these elected officials have an effect on you and I. And even if they don't have a direct effect right now, in the very near future, they will. So it's important for you to get involved, and it's so easy to do that through this campaign.
And I also want to just plug that a lot of the money that we raised in the very beginning were kids phone banking for us. So we, early on when we announced our candidacy, a lot of the kids are still on the campaign, but just in a different capacity because now they're in college. But they organized a kid phone banking, and they each picked 20 people that they know. And we had a big, huge phone banking day in August, when I first launched last August. And they called their family and friends. And so they were able to help give us our seed money, which allowed us to then be able to make bigger investments to continue to grow the capital needed to run for office. You need millions of dollars to do this. So just FYI. So them stepping up and doing that is super significant. We did a lot of our phone banking system was built and designed and coded by young people from Stanford. Our door knocking approach was organized by young people. So the reason why we've gotten this far is not because of the adults necessarily, it's because of the young people. And I really, again, believe that young people are the future, and that's what keeps me going. It's why I wake up at 4, it's why I go to bed at 11, 12 o'clock at night. I go at this 7 days a week because it's for you guys, for the young people. And I feel like it's our responsibility as the adults to make sure you guys have a future that you can flourish in. And I also want to plug that kids in foster care don't have anyone advocating and championing for them. And so that's a huge part of why I'm running. In terms of financial literacy, I actually met a group of high school students like yourselves that didn't even know the difference between a debit and credit card. And I was like, whoa, that's insane. There's no reason why you guys should leave college not prepared for the future, not having things connected to the real world, being able to monopolize on this retirement. The best time to grow retirement is starting when you're really, really young, right? So those are the things that I want to see mandated at the federal level.
All right, thank you. Do you have a question? Yes. Okay, so our question is, what other things do you want to change about our education system?
A lot. I want to modernize it. I think our classrooms the curriculum is so out of date. It's outdated. I think that we need more field trips. I think teachers deserve stipends at the beginning of the year to invest in their classroom. I believe almost every lesson should be hands-on, and that means teachers should have resources in order to do that. I think field trips should be more of a priority, and that we provide funding for that, for teachers to be able to take their kids out of the classroom. I mean, there's a whole world out there. And if you're just stuck in those four walls, you're missing out on so many rich experiences that you could have. I think we need life skill courses, like bring back home economics, wood shop, coding, things that are going to actually be beneficial. For example, I met with Jack Dorsey, who is the CEO, or I've been working with his team, but or met with his team, but because he tweeted at me. But he is the CEO of Twitter and Square. And something that they're doing right now is they're creating a solar farm to mine Bitcoin. And that is going to create a lot of jobs. So those are jobs that have not even been created yet. And so when you think of things like that, to me, that's like, we got to keep up with the time. Not that I'm encouraging anyone to go into crypto and stuff like that. I'm just making the point that innovation is not stopping, and that we have to make sure that kids are prepared to take on those jobs. Automation's not going anywhere. If anything, COVID accelerated it. And so I think that's really, really important. And I think that we need to invest in trade schools and vocational education. I don't think every kid should go to college. I've been teaching for a long time, and there's some kids in my classroom that should just be entrepreneurs, or they want to be a hairstylist. So I'm not of the belief college is for everyone. So those are some things. And then universal preschool.
Yes. All right. I know you can't see, but there was a lot of nodding in the beginning.
Good.
Yeah.
Wait, can I ask them a question? Can you relay? Like, don't you hate it when you have teachers that only lecture style, that just stand at the front of the classroom and then they just talk at you for 45 minutes? Doesn't that drive you guys crazy? Like, who learns like that? So like, for me as a teacher, and Kate, who's on this call, can contest to this, like hands-on, rich experience connected to the real world. Like today, like I'm green. I was in the trenches with my students, and it makes for a richer learning environment. I don't lecture. I believe in project-based learning, hands-on learning, the constructivist approach, connecting things to the real world. Like I had my second graders about 7 years ago. We had a class bank account, and I taught them how to make money through the whole year. Through the whole year, we read the book Freckle Juice, and then we had like a Freckle Juice stand, which was like a spin on a lemonade stand. We made a ton of money, put in our class bank account. Then we had a newspaper, sold it, made money. And by the end of the year, they saw their money, their bank account increase. And then I was like, how do you want to invest it? What do you want to invest it in? And then they ended up investing in the 3 field trips that we were able to go on at the end of the year. So that's what I want to see for all kids in education, in school.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
What's your question? All right. The question is, what is your opinion on like the grassroots candidates who have in recent years become national figures, and we need to see more? And do we need to see more grassroots candidates?
Yeah, I'm a grassroots candidate. The reason why it's important is because where a candidate gets their money matters. It's who they end up being beholden to. For example, I have only received individual contributions from everyday people, nurses, firefighters, teachers, small business owners, etc. And what that means is when I get to Congress, I don't have to worry about the corporations and the big special interests and all that kind of stuff, unlike my incumbent, who gets money from pawn shops, check cashing, big banks, the places that keep people poor, impoverished, right? And I think what happens when you only receive money from everyday people, it allows you to really fight for the things that you care about. Because you better believe when I get elected on June 7th in 2020, when I win my primary and then move to the general and then I win in November, the things I'm going to be advocating are the things that I'm talking to you guys about, and I will have no qualms about it. And I think it also keeps you passionate, keeps you fired up, because you don't need anyone else but the people that are supporting you in your community. And I think we're at this influx in politics where people are getting really fed up with nothing getting done. We have a bill, we have two big bills right now that are being fought over. There's no common ground, no consensus really happening, and it's at the expense of American people. And so, and a lot of it, if you follow the money, you go to fec.com and look up your favorite representative, you can find out where they're getting the money, and it tells the story of why they're not for something or why they are for something. So yes, I absolutely think we need more grassroots candidates.
There's clapping. Okay, what's your question? Okay, what obstacles do you think are in the way today of achieving education reform?
Money. I think that money is like, it's money gets in the way of getting things done. Either you don't have enough of it, or it's spent on things that do nothing, and there's no accountability. And so I think we need that, and I think we need more people championing education. What irritates me is that everyone says, oh, we need to invest in the future, we need to invest in young kids, we need to invest, teachers matter. Well, then let's act like it. Let's act like it. Like, I went into a school, I couldn't even believe just the aesthetics of the school, you know? And then if you just take your public school and you compare it to like a private school, there is no comparison. And so I think that that's what's happening, is that it's just like, I'll say it like this, I'm just gonna be very honest, I'm just gonna say it. We need to stop with the sound bites, and we need the actions. And again, it goes back to who we put into office. Like, they just cut free community college. We say kids are the future, but why are we cutting community college out of the bill? They did that. We say we care about young kids being able to read, but we're not investing in universal preschool. Why do I have fifth graders that can't read? Why do I have fourth graders that can barely construct a sentence? Because they don't care. And so we have to invest in teachers, because teachers will always, for the most part, do right by their students. So we give teachers the money, let them go buy the materials, let them bring the classroom to life, because we put in the work. We are the reason why schools are successful. I really believe that. Give teachers the money. Don't give it to admin.
Thank you. Yeah.
A few questions, but let me feedback on how do you plan to fund this?
Yeah. Which fund what?
Fund.
Okay. In your campaign, how do you plan to fund the additional like education benefits and giving stipends to teachers and things like that?
So when we win, and I hope to serve on the Education and Labor Committee in Congress. If Nancy Pelosi is still the Speaker in Congress, she will decide who works on what committees. That's a whole nother conversation on how that works. But I will be introducing a bill called the BACA dividend. And it's actually after my mentor, who's the reason why I am a teacher today. And I'm going to legislate that and get as many co-sponsors as I can, and try to get, let's say Nancy Pelosi is still the Speaker of the House, to put it on the floor for a vote and to get that passed at the federal level. So it would be for public school teachers, would get $1,000 at the beginning of every school year and $1,000 second semester of a school year to invest in their classrooms to start. And then I would introduce a second bill for field trips, so teachers can take their students on field trips.
Okay, and
how?
where is the money? Is the money coming from something else? Or?
Yes. So basically what you do when you're on a committee is you find different ways to fund it. And so we would I don't have that kind of data because I'm not in Congress yet, but you find, maybe you cut broken programs that are not working. You see, that's the other thing too. We have all these programs that are not working that are still being funded. Well, maybe we cut some of those and reallocate the resources to new programs. And so that's one way of funding the money. Or we can implement certain kinds of different taxations, but I would like to really look at what programs are not working and reallocate that money, because I'm not really interested in taxing middle-class families, but maybe we could tax the billionaires and get some extra funding. Not that I think that billionaires shouldn't necessarily, I'm not saying that, I don't know if you guys have billionaires that you know or whatever, but I do think that they should pay their fair share of taxes.
Yes, thank you. All right.
How do you feel specifically about our curriculum in math, science, history, English as it is right now?
Okay. How do you feel about the curriculum for math, science, history, and English being like the 4 core subjects and as it is right now?
I think they're obviously really important, but I think if you're not connecting those to the real world, it serves no purpose. I personally am of the belief that everything should be connected to the real world, and kids should be able to, oh, I know why I need to know this. Oh, okay, I see why that's important, why percentages are important. So I think those are really important, but I also, again, think we should keep up with the times. Coding, life skill courses, financial literacy, um, there's like a bill that got passed. It's like an apprenticeship bill, and basically, let's say you're very passionate about, I'm trying to think of a pizza. Like you want to be a chef. Like you want to be a chef. Then what we would do is then partner you up with the chef, and then you would learn that trade. And maybe you're not taking a certain class that you're not going to need, and then you would go and you would do that apprenticeship. And that way, when you graduate, you're already in a position to start making money. And so so I think that we should be more open-minded to things like that and not so like rigid and traditional, because quite frankly, I think kids are not inspired by school anymore. I feel like kids should leave the classroom every day thinking about what they did in some class and how they can improve their life and leverage themselves. And I don't believe that that's happening anymore, personally. I know this might sound really bizarre, but like, if you just think about a lot of kids now that are on TikTok and social media and stuff, they're starting to already start careers just being an influencer. Not that I'm like encouraging that, but I think when you look around you and you see what kids are interested in and what they're doing, it's not about being an influencer, how I see it. I'm like, oh, they're being an entrepreneur. They're being a YouTuber. They're being an entrepreneur. So why don't we have more entrepreneurship courses and business courses maybe at the high school level? Does that make sense? Did that answer the question?
Yes, it did.
What did I think of my answer?
What did you?
Really good answer. I was kind of looking for what we should do about our curriculum.
Okay. Thank you. They said they were really interested and they were thinking about like how to change the curriculum to make students who may not be interested in like financial literacy courses more interested. So, and they liked your answer. Okay. We'll go to our next question. Okay. What is your opinion on police reform at the local level?
I think it's needed. I think that, obviously as a woman of color, I care very deeply about this. I think that what we need is a national database, to be quite frank, where when you become a police officer, you're registered into this database. And then that way, when you can't just go from one department to another state or another city, then you're held accountable. And I think if we have national policing standards, when something happens and we're not seeing the justice take place, then at the next level we can step in and that there's a standard. Kiki, who is very, very passionate about this, I'll also let her share some ideas that she has on this, but that's one way. And I think making sure that police officers are from their community is really important. I think investing in after school programs is vital. Something that I'm becoming very passionate about and I'm working on is how, when we see a firefighter, we don't get scared, we don't get anxious, we like look at them with such high regard and we're like, oh, whatever, and they're so friendly. How do we build that kind of rapport with police officers? So currently I'm working with police officers and firefighters on how to create those type of relationships so we can lower the temperature. But Kiki, go for it. And then I'll let Krista, who sits on the board, also she works with police officers on policing reform, speak to this.
Okay, so Aarika hit some very good points about unifying the community. One of the most important things in terms of police reform is really about getting your communities together and making sure that you have a very strong base. In some communities, right, like Greenwich, Palo Alto, they don't really have as active police forces as you see in the Valley or in LA, South Central, all of those things, because they have neighborhood watches, neighborhood councils who do the same thing, almost the same thing, as police officers. The thing is that you have established trust, you know these people, you're comfortable with these people because they're your neighbors and they're your family friends and people that you know and love and care about. But the thing is, we don't have that with police right now. As Aarika said, you see police, a lot of people get scared. A lot of people have a negative image of them that doesn't help with them doing their job. As a common thing that's said is police are also afraid of the people that they're servicing on the street. Another thing that can be done with terms of police reform, I'm not going to throw a bunch of legal terms at you, but there is one known as qualified immunity, which is really important when you want to, in trials in which injustice has gone on. Qualified immunity is the biggest excuse and the biggest reason why police officers get off. But to do away with that or even reduce it in any way, shape, or form would result in so much more justice being served for so many families, so many communities who have been used and abused by the system. I will pass it to Krista.
And we are for ending qualified immunity. It's on our website. Krista, you're on mute.
Remember at the top of quarantine when the internet went out, everyone, like every 2 seconds? I'm like being taken back in time. So I'm walking around my neighborhood to talk to you. So police reform specifically, I'm on the board for the American Institute of Police Reform. And the two things that we're actually working on right now are qualified immunity and police use of deadly force. We have a posture of having a national standardization because there's 18,000 police departments in the United States. So to think that we would be able to go to every single one of them and try to shift their culture, train them, get them to adhere to different standards is a little ludicrous. So we're just trying to go to 50 states and change the law so that every single state has the same set of expectations around those two issues specifically, because those are the reasons we don't see a lot of justice. So that's what we're doing now. If you can imagine, being an African-American driving from one state to another, you have no idea when you cross any sort of state line, what you're up against in terms of how police will treat you, what's legal, what's not. And it just seems so unnecessary. It's like such a ridiculous way to live. So our team is mostly Supreme Court lawyers all over the United States and police chiefs from all over the United States as well, working together to try to figure out how to change these laws. And you can actually go, I'll have Aarika send the website. We have an interactive map on our website. So if you want to look at police use of deadly force, what the specific laws are, like chokeholds, no-knock warrants, you can click on whatever state and you can see which ones actually have laws that protect citizens around those issues and which ones don't. So I'll make sure to put that link in here too.
And I think something else that's really important to there's two things: mental health, investing in more people that, so there's a trial, I would say like this, there's trials that are happening right now where mental health workers actually go out with police officers to help de-escalate the situation and to calm down the situation. I think that's something that's worth investing in. And I think also training when it comes to the deaf community. We don't talk about this enough, but the deaf community, especially if you're a person of color and you're a dear deaf individual, you also are confronted with a lot of run-ins with the police because they think you're throwing up gang signs or whatnot, and there's a lot of injustices. So our campaign is a huge advocate for the D and deaf community, hard of hearing community, and I think more training on how to interact with people with those needs.
Yes, thank you. And that's like, our school has a very large like deaf and hard of hearing program, and like a lot of the people here are in ASL 3. This is what.
Oh, that's awesome! That's amazing.
All right.
I got into it because when I was in college, there was a classmate of mine who did not have enough interpreter hours and minutes, and I thought that was an injustice. And so I took up ASL, basic ASL, so I can advocate for her in class. And now I make it my mission to teach my kids the minimum of the alphabet. Hi, how are you? The numbers, there's Kate, there she goes. The alphabet, hi, how are you? How to say their name, 1 through 10, and just basic just terms, because when you come across someone that is deaf or deaf, they deserve to have respect and they deserve to be treated like a human being. So that is something that we are very, very intentionally advocating for. And going back to something politically related, it was an injustice that during the debates there were no interpreters. And so that's another piece of legislation that I want to introduce, is making sure there's always interpreters, a minimum of 2 at every political event, because captions don't keep up with what people are saying. Just want to plug that.
Yes, thank you. That got a round of applause. Does anyone have any more questions? Or yeah.
What's your stance on cryptocurrency? And
Okay. What's your stance on cryptocurrency?
We are for crypto. We are for Bitcoin. We're not for banning it. So that's a big contrast between Brad Sherman and I. I'm of the belief that people should be able to invest money in whichever way that they choose. And that's where the financial literacy comes in. If you know that this could be a volatile or rocky investment, maybe you don't make that investment. But I do think that people should be able to regulate that for their life. And the reality is that it's not going to go away. I think it's going to create a lot of jobs. I think it's innovative. I think it's going to be as big as the internet at some point. We have a lot of injustices within the banking system. And where, for example, just in the pandemic, the banks did not waive their fees and they made billions off the poor. And then we also have a bunch of people that are impoverished that don't even have access to bank accounts. They're unbanked. And so what ends up happening is they go to check cashing companies and then they're paying 400% on these loans. And so by the time they get their paycheck, it's all gone, or they can't keep up with it. And that's an injustice in and of itself. And so not only does our campaign not take money from check cashing, pawn shops, big banks, big corporations, but we are very anti that. And so I am absolutely for Bitcoin. We take Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And even today, we've raised I think $3,000 in crypto, which is leverages someone like me as a teacher to finance a campaign grassroots style. So I think we are going to be one of the big talks in 2022 when it comes to cryptocurrency. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I would love to know how you young people feel about it. For, against, you've invested in it.
Yeah, that got some claps. We do have to end shortly because a lot of people have to go. Do we have more questions? Or okay, yes. Yeah. To achieve what? What is the biggest obstacle for students today in California, like to learn or achieve?
The biggest, I don't know if this is going to be an attractive answer, but I think social media. I think social media is just a huge part of young people's lives, and I think it is it's a complicated issue because on one, it's can't live with it, can't live without it. We know the mental health aspect and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's an obstacle because I think it does interfere with learning and the social pressures that happen on social media. I'm speaking as a teacher now, just a lot of the conflicts I end up having. Did she say that on Snapchat, or they did this, or whatever, TikTok, blah, blah, blah. So that is the stuff that I hear. But I think the biggest thing, adults getting in the way of young people flourishing. I think we as adults need to get out of your guys' way, support you in your dreams and ambitions, and make sure that you can prosper. I think we're living in such a unique time. You guys have access to the internet, all these things where you can really leverage yourself. I always the guys that built our phone banking system, I was patent that and make millions of dollars off my campaign. Patent your idea, copyright it, and make millions of dollars. I think we need to start really trying to encourage kids to do their ideas. And I'm very big on that. I don't know if it's because of the way my mom is or whatnot, but I think that's really, really important. And I want to say money. I think that money is hindering people from being able to pursue their dreams and goals and aspirations. Kiki, you want to say something?
Yeah, so I know that our time is coming to a close. So just really quick, before we all have to leave, one, I want to say thank you so much for asking your questions and taking the time to listen to us. And two, I would like to say, if you do want to keep up with us, if you are interested in hearing more, please follow us on Instagram at Aarika for Congress. I don't know if you guys can see the chat on what you're looking at. So I'm just
Yeah, I'm showing it. Everyone is taking out their phones
you
right
guys can see it. Perfect. And I would also like to advertise that we are going to have an event for kids soon, November 13th from 10:30 to 11:30. We are having a kids door knocking challenge, a kids canvassing challenge. If you guys are interested in coming and getting involved, just as a precursor, a dip your toes in, all of that information is available on our Instagram. So thank you so much.
And I just want to end with this. Thank you, Kiki. And I just want to end with this. You guys can do hard things. Running for Congress as a full-time teacher is really, really hard, but we're doing it. We have more donations, more small dollar donations than Brad Sherman. We have donations from all 50 states, Puerto Rico, DC, America, Samoa. We are really viable to win in 2022. And it's because we know that we can make the impossible possible. So whatever it is that you want to do, if you just work hard and you decide to do it, do it. And if someone tells you that you can't do it, ignore them. People tell me no all the time. And Anita, who's on the call, can attest to this. I just like, on to the next. I'll take the next yes. I get 10 no's, but when I get a yes, it's a big yes. And so I just want you guys to know you can do hard things. And this campaign is living proof of it. Living proof of it. And I'm like, I don't want to get emotional, but I really, honestly, doing this for you guys, like young people. I just think that it's important, and if we win, this will mean something. This will be really huge if we pull off this win. And it's not this. We would not have gotten this far without young people. And I promise that when I am in Congress, you will be my absolute priority. And I just want to say thank you for the opportunity of being here.
Oh, okay. So thank you. And then people are asking, how do they get involved, like with your campaign? And do you need interns?
We pay people to be on our campaign. So if you want a job, we're happy to employ you. So Kiki can put her maybe Nicole, maybe you could put your email in there. And if you want a job on our campaign and we could pay you for your time, we're happy to hire you, and we will be in touch. So just email Nicole, say I'm interested in working on Aarika's campaign, and we will employ you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you guys. Yeah, people are very interested in that. And I want to thank you again for logging on. I think this was very informative. I think people got their questions answered, and it like raised a lot of awareness. And would you guys say this was a good experience?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, you guys. Appreciate it.
Hopefully we can maybe do another town hall, maybe next semester.
Yeah.
Maybe in person if the rules change.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for working with me and our club.
And maybe I can invite Andrew Yang or someone that's an elected official to come with me, so you guys can have another shared experience with someone that's, a name. That's like an actual.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, I will work on it.
So much.
Okay, bye.
Have a nice weekend.
Thank you guys. Have a good weekend. Happy Halloween.
You too.